All right, KISS Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a KISS-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. We'd love you to support this show. Please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Your likes and subscription helps us to grow and attract interviews and content. So please retweet and share our posts. Your contributions are appreciated.
Greetings and welcome to KissFAQ Podcast 438. I am your host this week, Marcus Almighty, and this week I am joined by my good friend Ken Keenan, better known as 69th Blizzard on the board.
Hello.
You're also joined by the ever-popular Lonnie Weishauer, also known as St. Louis Kiss on the board. I know I probably shouldn't be using real names, but what the hell, everybody knows each other anyways, so it's not like it's a big surprise. Yeah. So, how are you gentlemen doing today?
Not bad. For,
Bad for Thursday.
For Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. We're approaching Halloween, which is, of course, is a very popular time of the year in the KISS world. We'll get to that in a minute. But before we get to our topic this week and talk about a few other things in the world of KISS, let's go over to our friend, Mr. Lonnie, and ask him about some comments that he could show us or tell us about from the previous episode.
So if you guys remember last week, we talked about 4 years into the end of the road. Along with some other topics, which generated some discussion on the board. And on YouTube. We get a lot of comments on YouTube, and the EWFX29 says that I don't agree with Mark on a number of issues, but I'm 100% with him on the KISS fans being too forgiving of the decisions of the band and just blindly buy product to enable KISS to act the way they do. This tour is actually their topper as to how much KISS fans will accept before they say enough. But I fear there is no limits. Same tour for 5 years, overpriced, redundant products, standoffish attitudes, and they're just toppers on the list. KISS used to be my favorite band. Then I turned 13 and fell back into the pack. This is very negative. See how they treat their fans and former employees, and kind of glad I can enjoy the music, and that's about all. As long as I have KISS Alive and Alive 2, that will be all I need. The rest, everyone else can sell on eBay for $500. Well, let's get into something a little more positive here.
Those are wise words, though.
Those are wise words, though, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. And we do our own bashing of the band on the show as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Richard Goad says, thanks for this podcast and your 2 forthcoming ones. I can't afford the cruise, so the FAQ will suffice as my own KISS Fest for this week, Cruise Fest for this weekend. And I think we all kind of feel that way, too. That, if we're not on the cruise, well, I think we check the FAQ and we check those message boards on Facebook and things like that to try to, see how quickly we can discover what the set list is on these different shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sean John says, I asked Bruce a couple years ago about an autobiography, and he said that he will do one, just not sure when. I'd love to read this as well. Hope he does write one. I think we all agree with that we would love to hear Bruce's perspective on things. And our boys from the Scandinavian land, they did a show last week as well. Daniel and Nils and the rest put together a show on their own, because this is the FAQ and it is a community. And it's not anyone's shows. It's a community show. Gary M. says, great job, Daniel. Always enjoy your presence on the main FAQ podcast, especially as Quizmaster. This was a great idea and always interesting to hear new perspectives on KISS. And I agree with that. It's good to get different voices on these shows as we do them. And Julian always says in our private chat with one another that it's not his show, it's everyone's show. It's the group show. It's the board show. So really cool that Daniel and Nils and those guys did a show from their perspective from a different part of the world. Very cool.
Yeah, Very cool
Nice.
indeed. I started listening to it. I got about a quarter way through, but it is like 2.5 hours long.
Just
So
a
there's
show from out of nowhere that you only got a quarter of the way through it.
no, I mean,
It's
that's
a long
like
episode.
45 minutes. Like that's almost one episode, right there. So no, but I do promise I will watch the whole thing, as I do love those guys. So, but you know how it is. You're 45 minutes and all
Oh,
of a
yeah.
sudden something happens. You got to run off and do something else. So, but I'll get back to it. But I'm sure it's fantastic. What I've watched so far, great stuff, guys. I really do like what you guys are showing and talking about. So, before we get to the topic this week, let's talk about a few news items that are happening in the world of KISS. So first and foremost, this is not fresh news, but of course it's very important news. The KISS Alive 2 45th Anniversary LP and merch is now online at kissonline.com. There is an Alive 2 picture disc logo release that has a die-cut cover, so you can see the crowd pick in the kind of lettering there, which is very cool. There's also a colored vinyl of the album that came out that looks rather psychedelic and kind of cool. And and then the usual other accoutrements like T-shirts and mugs and lithographs and stuff like that. And much to, I don't think most people were surprised about this, but there were a few. The picture disc sold out relatively quickly.
Yeah.
On this. I remember seeing online on Facebook many of people bitching and complaining, saying that they missed out on it, that by the time they woke up, that it was already sold out. So I think KISS needs to start thinking about this a little bit better about how they do this. Maybe they should release this stuff later in the day, maybe, or pick a different time where it's a little bit easier for people to all kind of chime in and grab it. So I'm just curious first. Let's go around the table. Did anybody grab anything? What did you get? And what do you think about this, release date time thing? Like, do you think they should make a more public friendlier time for buying these things? Let's go to Ken first.
Yeah. I did get
on the West Coast, yeah.
Yeah, I did get.
Yes.
Yeah, it was real early that it went on sale here. It was after 6 a.m. or whatever here. So that's early, Not a lot of people are up over in the West Coast.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I was alerted by, I think Julian was the first to alert me, actually, thanks to Julian. And I went ahead and got both bundles, the picture disc bundle and the colored vinyl bundle. So as far as that deal about it sells out so fast, again, I said this before, they should allow one per, you order one per time. It allows you to order 4 copies at once. And so you immediately see later that day or the next day a live picture disc on sale on eBay for $700. And so people are, taking advantage of it. I don't know if it's the true KISS fans or what, and they need to allow the real regular KISS fans at least to have a better opportunity to get the vinyl. So either produce, instead of 500, produce 1,000, or again, reduce it from 4 to 1. Something like that, or even just 2, at least drop it down, and then allow more people to be able to get their copy.
Yeah, I think 2 would be more wiser. I mean, 1 would probably, people would complain, I can't resell anything, But I mean, if you just leave it at 2, at least you can appease those one group of people where it's like, I need 1 to keep
one to
sealed,
open and 1 sealed,
and then 1 to open.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean that's fine. I mean I'm not going to break their balls about that, even though I think it's kind of funny, but it's okay. I mean that's if you're into that, you're into that. So Lonnie, what about you, my friend? What did you get?
I bought the picture disc bundle, and I bought a copy of the colored vinyl as well. I'm a sucker like a lot of KISS fans that if they put something out, I'm gonna buy it. We sit here, we complain that KISS just regurgitates the same shit over and over again, but why not regurgitate the same shit over and over again if people like me and Ken are just going to go and buy everything they put out? So, and we're not the only ones. I mean, and I was sitting there thinking about it Monday morning that I was like, there's 500 of these things. You know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning here in St. Louis. There's 500 of these things in existence. And like, well, Ken bought one, Julian bought one, I bought one. There's 3 of them right there gone. You know, how many other people are ordering these things? And then I got to thinking, you know what? There's a lot of people already on the West Coast getting ready to set sail on the KISS Cruise this morning.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's 6 a.m. out there. And a lot of those people probably had a pretty good time last night and are not awake yet at 6 a.m., much less coherent enough to order these discs before they sell out. And sure enough, you know, they did. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, and that's a big part of their clientele that's basically really buying anything they put out, or the diehard people that are getting ready to go on this cruise. And some of those people, you know, they're going on both cruises this week.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and I knew, and Julian had we had kind of had our suspicions that Monday was going to be the day that this was going to happen. And I knew it would happen before the cruise set sail. They weren't going to put this thing out they weren't going to have this a live 2 release date while the boat was, you know, in the Pacific Ocean somewhere.
Right.
I knew it was going to happen before that first cruise set sail, and sure enough, it did. As far as, you know, the limits, you know, that you can only buy 4, they have a limit of 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, should it be 2? You know, yeah, maybe should. But at the same time, the people that want to do that are going to do that. They're going to have multiple logins to KISS Online, and they're going to order it once, and then they're going to log in, and they're going to order it again. And there's probably a guy out there, or multiple guys out there, that ordered 4 and then logged in and ordered
Number 4, exactly.
No, there's probably a guy or multiple guys out there that have done that, and I'm sure they're probably laughing. A guy, I'm like, I know a bunch of guys that have done that, and it's a little side hustle for them. If KISS does this kind of thing every couple months, and they're making a few $100 off of each one that they buy. And this is nothing new either. I mean, remember back to those KISS area box sets back in 2014, there were a lot of people buying those and then Frankensteining them out, selling like that copy of Greatest KISS for $500-$700 because you couldn't get it anywhere else unless you bought the whole box set. So I'll buy the box set for $1,200. I'll sell the Greatest KISS for $700. I'll sell the Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits for this amount. I'll sell the You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best for a certain amount. And they're making the Killers. And this isn't a new trick.
Yeah, and they made their money back.
Right, they made their money back and then some. This isn't a new trick that's happened since KISS started doing these picture discs the last year or so.
Yeah, so one thing that I thought that kind of hit me that might have been a good idea, but of course, if it's a good idea, KISS won't do it. But I thought that one good thing that they could have done was implement this release with the cruise. Like, wouldn't this be cool if they made a version of the record? Let's say yellow vinyl, just for the sake of just picking a different color. A yellow vinyl release of a Live 2 that's only available to people on the cruise. Now, if you come on the cruise, you can buy that on the cruise, and that's it. Now, that would be, I think, something that'd be very cool to do, and I think it would show loyalty to the hardcore fans. You know what I mean? The second cruise, make an old blue vinyl version of it or whatever. You know, just a different color that's available only to the people that go on the cruise, and then just do the regular thing like you're doing online for the rest of the stuff. That's fine. All right. I think that sometimes they miss the mark sometimes with these events that they do, where they can kind of also use it to their advantage. And just for the sake of letting people know what I got, I just bought the colored vinyl. I didn't buy the bundle. The reason why I don't buy the bundle is because I usually go back later and I like buying T-shirts from the various different albums that they've released. So I like buying the T-shirts separately because, you know, they're always available. They never sell out. So I don't feel pressure to buy a bundle because the T-shirts never really sell out. So I just get them later on and find a couple. I bought the Elder one and a couple of other ones before. So, but what do you guys think about that idea?
You know, I think that's fine. I think that's a good idea. I also think that I saw, you know, the cruise is going on right now, and, you know, I saw this thing on Facebook the other day about somebody saw this on eBay that somebody was selling one of those posters that they give out, and it's signed or print signed by all four of them. I'm not sure which, and it's exclusive to the two-timer cruisers. Blah 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 blah. And he was selling it for $500.
Ooh, okay.
And okay. And people were like, "Oh, that's ridiculous." Blah 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 blah. Don't be mad at the guy selling it. If a guy, be mad at the guy buying it for that amount.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anybody can sell anything they want to sell, but it's up to the buyer. And KISS knows that people are selling these things, and they're not stupid. They know that this goes on. But I mean, like Ken said, he said later that afternoon or the next day or whatever, oh, there's a KISS Alive 2 picture disc up for sale for $700. I don't know. Everybody, if it makes the person happy that's buying it for $700, more power to the guy selling at the end of the day. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you make a good point though, Lonnie, because there's that old saying, there's a sucker born every minute, right? So that's kind of the way it's looked at, right? Because I could go on here now, for example, and I mean, I would never do this personally, but I was almost tempted one time to try this theory because what if I went online and put one of my own albums up for sale on eBay for $1,100? I wonder if there would be somebody that would actually buy it. You know what I mean? Like, just it's incredible how much some people will actually drop for records. I'm not saying that my record is in the same category as Chris. I'm not that delusional, but I'm just thinking that the theory of people spending money for things like that. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I just can't believe how much some people will be willing to spend on it. But hey, if you had the money to do it, then all the best to you for doing that. But like Lonnie said, don't fear the person. No, don't fear. Don't get mad at the person selling it. Be mad at the person that's actually supporting that. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's driving the price up. If somebody's going to buy it for $700, I could sell mine for $750, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One last thing on that live too, where we mentioned at the beginning, it's a die cut, has a die cut out where it says Alive 2 on this is the picture disc version, and you can see the inner sleeve, which the inner sleeve has like the crowd on it, and you could see that through the letters, the die cut. This is the first time, from what I can remember, that KISS has had a die cut record or vinyl.
Yeah.
Right. This is the first time ever. So, which is kind of, thinking about it, it's kind of surprising to me. But anyway, I think it's kind of cool. And if you wanted, I thought, well, if I want it to look red, like the original, Live 2, I could stick something in there, paper, whatever, to make it look like that Live 2. Or you could put something else, their faces behind the letters, or you gotta have fun with it, I guess, if you wanted to.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't clue into that at all until you mentioned it on the messenger there the other day. I
didn't even know it was until someone, I guess, got that information. So someone that posted it, they heard from the person, I guess, who worked on that release. So they should mention that in the description on KISS Online. That's a die cut cover, because some of the other stuff, like the foil cover for Love Gun, for instance, I don't think they mentioned that either.
No, the cover of those two Love Guns are very distinctly different from one another.
Yeah, exactly. So before we go on to the next topic, one thing that we should do is say hello and hope Julian, our good friend Julian Gill, and leader of this fine podcast and website in general, he is out right now in San Pedro. Last time I think he's in San Pedro right now for the KISS Cruise stuff going on. So hope you're doing well out there and keeping safe. It seems like he's having some good times there. He has his books out there and stuff like that. And that leads us to I believe he said that he's at a bar tonight. I forget what the name of the bar is. Was it Grandma's or something? I don't remember the name of the bar, but he's at a bar tonight, and he'll be probably signing his books and stuff like that. So we hope that goes well for him tonight. But speaking of the cruise, we know now the KISS Cruise Sail Away set list was announced, after it was performed, which is Deuce, Hotter Than Hell, Firehouse, Parasite, Shock Me, Got to Choose, Rock and Roll, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, sorry, Going Blind, Do You Love Me, Two Timer, Christine 16, Nothing to Lose, and Take Me. So, interesting set list. I mean, there's two songs in there that immediately stand out to me. Two Timer, which is something I don't think they've played for quite a while. And, you know, Take Me is something they haven't played very often at all. I don't think since probably the 70s, or maybe, you know, well, maybe in some of the other cruises they've done it, but it's not a song that's performed very often. First reactions on this Sail Away set list. Let's start with Lonnie this time. You're muted.
I don't hear him.
There.
At least once a week. You know, I wasn't. Two Timer was cool. Nothing to Lose, that's cool. Take Me, that's cool. A lot of the rest of it, not real surprising, not real different, but you know, like we said last week, I wasn't expecting the kind of crap that they played on KISS Kruise I. Like, oh my god, I can't believe they're pulling all this shit out.
Yeah.
You know, I expected a few nuggets here and a nugget there. And that's what the Sail Away show was too. And we'll get to the Electric show, and it's kind of the same thing there. That's fine. And you know, if people are excited about it and they feel like they're getting their money's worth, you know, that's great. So a few nuggets to them, you know, it's more nuggets. It's more of a rarity than you're ever going to get at a show in an arena or an amphitheater. So if people are happy with it, that's great.
I agree. Mr. Keenan, what do you think?
Yeah, the Two Timer really stuck out to me, and like I said, Take Me. You know, I'm surprised. Well, they did Shock Me, I guess. I haven't seen a video, so I assume that Tommy sang that. I'm sure he sang it. So he doesn't rarely. Well, I don't know. We mentioned something about Shock Me, right? Last they said people their heads would blow up or something if he said Shock Me. Oh no, that was the other one from Alive too. So a Rocket Ride. But anyway, you know, Parasite is always good. You know, when they pull that one out. So yeah, it's not bad. They tried. They tried a few deeper cuts. I still think they could have, you know, done more there, but you know, no, it is. I noticed that the set lists for these things are getting shorter and shorter. They're getting older and older, and the set lists are getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm looking on here to see if there's anything from like online, but it says here that there's a which one are we on? KISS Kruise 11 is this?
11, yeah.
Yeah.
Part 1 or something.
Yeah, there is one here. There is one.
Yeah,
this Pablo guy here has some footage on from KISS Kruise.
Yeah.
This is the one that's on here now. If you guys are looking for it, there is footage online of the Sail Away show. So I will just show you a couple of seconds of it here. No audio, of course. We don't want to get a copyright strike for that. So there's the footage, a little bit of it. You can find it on YouTube. So There you go, my friends. So, and as Lonnie kind of hinted at here, that was the Sail Away show, but there was also another show performed, was there not?
Last night.
Yeah,
yes.
Electric was last night.
An Electric show was performed. So, Lonnie, since you're the one who seems to know what was performed on that night, how about you tell us what was performed and your opinions on it?
Wow, Mark throwing it to me without going to me 2 seconds. All right. So, the first Electric show was last night, and they opened with Love 'Em, Leave 'Em. Very cool. Ooh. First time they've played that since 2006. Yeah. So last time they played Love 'Em, Leave 'Em was 2006 on that little Japanese tour they did that our friend Andrew attended.
Yes.
So they did Love 'Em, Leave 'Em, Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, War Machine, Heaven's on Fire, Parasite, Strutter, which is cool. I Love It Loud, She, Take Me, Come On and Love Me, Cold Gin, Love Gun, Black Diamond, Shout It Out Loud, Do You Love Me, Rock and Roll All Night. So while it starts at 17 songs, it starts off really cool, and then the last half of it
It's like they're
kind of morphs into the end of the road tour set list, basically.
Yeah.
But Love 'Em Leave 'Em, very cool. Haven't, like I said, haven't heard that, haven't played that live since 2006. So I mean, most people, 99% of the people there have never heard that song played live.
Yeah.
So very cool. King of the Nighttime World, haven't played that since 2014, and they only played that on a couple of shows starting that 2014 tour with Def Leppard. They opened with King of the Nighttime World like the first couple shows, and then dropped it. Why do I know that? And then like War Machine, Heaven's on Fire. Okay. That's end of the road stuff. Parasite, they've played that a lot on End of the Road. At least the first half, the first leg or two of it. Strutter, that's very cool. I Love It Loud. Okay. She, very cool. I mentioned that on the show last week that I wanted them to play She. Take Me, very cool. Come On and Love Me, very cool. And then basically End of the Road stuff the rest of the way through. So again, similar to the Electric Sail Away show, a few thrown in there, and a lot of what they've been playing on tour for the last 4 years on this tour. But to each their own. If people are happy with it and they want to sign up for the rumored KISS Kruise XII in January 2024, more power to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, based on the Sail Away and maybe the last year or so, it's kind of your typical show. They'll throw a couple out there that are kind of rare, and which is nice to see. But then they go into their standard, show that they've been playing on this that they've been playing the last 4 years or whatever, 3-4 years. So yeah, it is what it is at this point. I wish they would have tried a few more, maybe inserted a few more and pulled out of a few that they have not, a few that they play every night on the tour. Get those out of there and pull a few more additional songs in. But I don't know. Maybe they can't get that down. But Paul's in charge, so it's up to him in the end, I think.
Yeah. Well, what I find interesting is that the opening song is the song that people would immediately be like, oh wow, they're doing something completely different. I'm excited now. Now, interesting part is that they opened with a Gene song, right? Love 'Em, Leave 'Em, which is, very rare. Usually Paul's like the first one out of the firing gate singing on these things, unless it's Deuce, right? Which is the usual opener, right? But it's interesting when I look back at the Sail Away show, for example, though, 12 songs were played. Only 5 of them were sung by Paul, and 7 of them were done between Gene and Tommy, I'm sure, did the Shock Me, right? So they are kind of starting to tilt the set now, I'm finding, toward Gene singing more, which is a smart move on their part, I think, because I just think it's just he can handle his songs better, obviously, than Paul, right? At least in that sense. But what about, I don't think it's that way, though, on the other show, was it? I think the other set was more balanced, was it? Or was it more Paul in that?
Lonnie's tabulating them right now.
Yes. Calculation.
It's about 9. I'd say, it's about of the 17, about 9 Paul songs, actually. It's a little tilted the other way. I mean, she's kind of a duet almost with the two of them. And Shout It Out Loud as well. So, but there's Detroit Rock City, there's King of the Nighttime World, there's Heaven's on Fire, there's Strutter, She with the two of them. There's Take Me, there's Come On and Love Me, there's Love Gun, Shout It Out Loud, Do You Love Me? So it's a good mixture, I think of the two of them. No Tommy lead or no Eric lead on the electric show.
Mm.
But it's a good mix, and we talked last week about, how much can they really do with, with Paul, with the tracks and things like that. Well, they did King of the Nighttime World. They did Take Me, Come On and Love Me. I mean, those are Paul songs that we have not heard at all on End of the Road Tour whatsoever.
Yeah. So I thought that was the other thing I was thinking about, which I haven't seen any footage yet of this. So I'm curious to see the footage for myself, because I'm guessing now that these songs were done sans backing tracks for Paul. I'm guessing this is him singing it, So I'm curious to see how that turned out, because if it turned out decently well, then maybe it might be encouraging for him to try another song or two in the set list, because if he could handle these ones, why not? Change around the melody a little bit and, take it from there. Another thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly before we get to our main topic here is the other point that was brought up in the news post here, which is regarding Julian's post. He said that there's 2 sources that have reported that KISS will perform the Sail Away show, and then with no makeup shows. Now, the one that they did in the evening, that was they didn't wear makeup on that?
No,
this is for KISS Kruise, regarding KISS Kruise XII.
Mark,
KISS Kruise XII.
12
Okay,
sailing
sorry.
January 2024.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my mistake, guys. Okay, so then this is regarding KISS Kruise XII. So they're saying that there's going to be a sail away show and no makeup shows. Instead, there will be a Soul Station performance and Gene's solo band, along with Tommy and Eric doing activities, along with KISS tribute bands. So
tribute bands.
Yeah.
KISS tribute bands.
Sign me up.
This sounds rather alarming to me, because
it's a battle.
Battle of the bands. Why in God's name would they bring Soul Station on a KISS cruise? That's the first thing that I just didn't understand to begin with. I mean, I know it's Paul Stanley and it's his project, but really, how many people do you think are going to honestly want to go and see that? I mean, maybe if you're stuck on the ship, they'll go and see it, obviously.
Are you kidding, Mark? Are you kidding? They sold 2 cruises this week. Are you kidding? Of course they're going to get people to go on this. And if people want to go, more power to you. But of course people are going to go, well, KISS is going to do that Sail Away electric show. And people were all upset the other day, like, well, they said this is the last cruise that KISS is going to perform on board. And they're all upset about it. I laughed at that. And I go, I saw the farewell tour 22 years ago. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, be upset all you want, but they told us this was the last cruise that they were going to perform on board. I mean, they did on the farewell tour 22 years ago and said this is it. There is only
KISS.
one KISS farewell tour. They told us 22 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So, come on.
Well,
it's KISS.
But what I was referring to though is that, do you really think though that people would want to go and see the Soul Station? I mean, this is something that I'm just not sure is high on people's list of things to see. And I mean, the whole thing with bringing the tribute bands on there, I mean, what is with the deal with that? I mean, you have KISS on the cruise, the members are there.
Well, here it is. And some people would say that KISS tribute band is currently performing on the cruise, but anyway,
there's a lot of those on the FAQ.
Yeah, exactly. And thinking about it, if they're going to have KISS tribute bands, plural, they could have a battle of the bands to see who will be KISS 2.0.
Wow.
Take over, and you have these are picked tribute bands as voted by KISS to get on their cruise, and then have the fans in the cruise vote for their favorite of all those bands to be the successor to KISS as KISS 2.0.
I could see that. I could see multiple versions of like different takes on tribute bands, like an all-female KISS tribute band, like your traditional 70s KISS tribute band, like a Destroyer era KISS tribute band, a Dynasty Unmasked type version of it. I could see different versions of KISS tribute bands like that.
Different eras.
Well, Mr. Speed is currently doing the Dynasty one right now.
Yeah, and which is kind of cool. And you know what? I'd probably want to check that out if I was there. So
that's interesting, but I'm still holding my ground. And for the first time in a while, I've seen a few other people kind of echoing my earliest comments about this, that I still strongly believe KISS 2.0 will be involving Nick Simmons and it will be involving Evan. I think they're too smart to let KISS as a money-making operation go out of the family. I think that they're trying their damnedest to make sure that their own blood takes over this thing and continues it. I mean, hey, Gene, look at Nick. Nick can sing. We heard him sing on Bruce's record. He's done his own stuff. You know, Evan Stanley's apparently a great guitar player. We've seen much footage of him playing with his father and other stuff. It's not as big a stretch. I know people before, when I said it years back on one of the episodes, they were like, "You're crazy. They're never going to do that." But it's like now all of a sudden people are starting to say, it's starting to make me kind of believe that it's possible to happen. Yeah, it very well could. You know, I think that they would want to keep it within the family. Who's going to do the other guitar and drums? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Does Eric Singer have a kid? You know, who knows?
I don't think
so. So. But you know, there you go. I think there's always that outside possibility on that. So you can call me nuts if you want, but you know, I always thought that was a real good possibility of doing that. But you know, this whole January 2024, I'll just one more question about this, and we'll move on to the main topic. January, doesn't that seem kind of early to do a KISS Cruise? Thoughts, Ken?
Yeah, well, that means the speculation is that maybe something else will be going on in October. You know, this time period next year instead of the cruise. So it's possible maybe their final dates of the shows will be happening around October maybe or so, October, November, or they have something already booked for some other country or whatever.
Yeah, well, that brings me to another thing. Sorry, before you answer this, I just want you to you can also answer this as well, because it kind of ties in with it. Is the announcement that I saw on Facebook from Doc about saying that he wants to do that 50 shows around the world, 50 dates around the world. Is now people are wondering, is this part of Gene's announced 100 shows that he was talking about, or is this something completely different? Or what the hell is going on here? Because now this end of the road seems like it's going to be the never-ending tour of the road if they're going to now tack this on top of it now. Lonnie, your thoughts?
It's a roundabout tour, like Clark Griswold. You just keep on going.
That's a yes tour, roundabout yes tour. Anyway.
It's a roundabout.
Big Ben?
There's the Big Ben Parliament. Look, kids. I think that, you know, I'm assuming, and we shouldn't assume, but that these 50 dates are part of what Gene's talking about. We're going to do 100 more shows, and we know how Gene's team seems to inflate numbers, whether he's talking about shows or record sales or women or whatever it is. Gene always seems to inflate numbers, so maybe it is 50 dates around the world, and that's how they're going to promote it. But you know, 50th anniversary, 50 final KISS shows.
Maybe.
You know, I could see that being a type of promotion. 50th anniversary, 50 final KISS shows. And that being a big promotion for 2023. You know, 50 shows around the world. You start to think about that a little bit, and we're going to run out of time for a regular topic today. But there's actual news to discuss, which is good for a change.
Yeah.
50 shows around the world. You think about that. Well, you know, how many? If you're going to do around the world, well, how many is that for the U.S. or North America? How many is that for Europe? Are we really going to go all the way to Europe to do, I don't know, 10 shows, 15 shows? Are we going to go to Australia to do 5 shows? I don't know.
That's Japan
in Japan and wherever else. I mean, then how many does that leave America? 25 in America? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's kind of interesting to see, and I'm really curious to see how that's going to be brought out there and how that's going to be presented.
But they're gonna have to do at least one show in Dubai.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, will one of these shows be in Dubai? That's what somebody needs to ask Doc when they're on the cruise.
Yeah.
But we were told a year ago Doc's working on this, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Doc's working on it hard, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I saw another post about that where somebody actually said from the company that posted on a Facebook page saying that he works for the company that's involved with it, saying that the ball is completely in KISS's court. Apparently, that's what they said.
That's what they always have said. But anyway,
go ahead, Ken.
Anyway,
you have more to say about it.
I'm not even going to rant on this one this
I
time.
got one thing to say about Dubai. I was thinking about this the other day. Is that KISS? This was right. COVID, blah 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 blah. 2020, no touring, no audience, pay-per-view, this and that. KISS obviously got a huge, and I mean a huge payday to go to do this, or they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
How much would it really cost them? They're the band for the fans, by the fans, fans this and that and whatever. We hear and we obey. It's a drop in the bucket if they just say, okay, all these people that paid this money, here's your refund, and just move on. The people that paid for the one-time stream, hey, you got what you paid for. You got what you were promised.
Yeah.
But the fans that would paid for this merchandise, this so-called vinyl, so-called DVD, you know what? Here's your refund. Let's move on. It cost them nothing.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
Basically nothing. Because they had such a huge payday to go do that. Paul Stanley, who was Mr. COVID all of 2020, would not have gone and done that if he didn't get a huge payday to go do it.
Oh, yeah.
Amen. Amen. I think that you hit the nail right on the head, Ken. I feel like I'm leaving you out in this, brother.
No.
Give us your thoughts about this.
I totally agree.
It affects Ken. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah. I totally agree with Lonnie. It's so simple. It's what's called doing good business.
The right thing.
And they say, they care about their fans. Well, and this factor, I know it's been mentioned too. At least Doc knows about it, but I don't think there's really anybody caring about it. That fans spent hard-earned money and just lost out on promised merchandise. So
and you know what breaks my balls about that the most is that these are the same people who are waiting for this Dubai stuff, but you guys are still so loyal that when KISS Alive 2 just dropped now, you guys all went and bought bundles and everything again. Like, you're pissed off, but I'm still gonna go and buy now.
Like Lonnie said, we're suckers.
We are.
I mean, personally, I would have if I got screwed over like that, I wouldn't buy another damn thing from them again until I got it.
We were my wife and I were driving home from Cincinnati on Tuesday. We went up there for the games. We're driving home Tuesday. And, it's 5.5, 6 hour drive. So we're running out of things to talk about. So KISS came up. If you can believe that. So I start ranting about the Dubai thing, and she goes, "If you would have bought that, and you still wouldn't have gotten any of that," she goes, "there is no way that you'd be buying these picture discs, and there's no way you'd be done." Like, and I go, actually, I kind of agree with you that I'd be so pissed off about
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're KISS fans and we're suckers. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we love the band, and we'll find it's hard to sometimes get away from the allure of the shiny object, like, ooh, colored vinyl, ooh, picture discs, I'm still waiting for my Dubai stuff, but come on now, it'll come soon. I'll just buy this, and soon enough I'll get my Dubai. I mean, Ken is the king of optimism. I can see why he probably stays in a good frame of mind and continues to support the band, but I really do hope, though, on a positive note, that you guys do get your stuff. So, before this ends up being a 1 hour thing just on news, let's go over to our Halloween topic. Okay, so the main topic for this week is your favorite KISS Halloween memories. Okay, so Halloween's around the corner, and we know that Halloween is closely associated with KISS in many ways. So we're going to pick a few KISS-related Halloween memories or events and discuss them. So what is your favorite, or maybe let's say, what's your earliest KISS Halloween memory? Let's start with Lonnie.
Earliest KISS Halloween memory. I don't know if I have an earliest KISS Halloween memory. Like, for a lot of people, it's probably like Paul Lynn and things like that. Paul Lynn happened a couple years before I was born, so I don't have that. I really don't. Mark, I'm gonna cop out on you because I don't have like an early one.
Okay, well then, what's your favorite then?
My favorite is when I was 16 years old in 1995, and I knew the KISS. A couple about this is a great story. The girl I was dating in high school who's passed on since then. She's just I think about her. My wife knows I think about her. Whatever. She's just a great person. And like we're dating, and like a week before Halloween, we're sitting in one of her friends' basements, and we're just watching TV because that's what you did in '95. You just watched MTV.
Yeah.
And I knew KISS was doing the convention tour and this and that, and I saw a commercial that said Halloween night KISS MTV Unplugged. I'm like, oh my god, and her friend, and I go, oh my god, that's amazing. And her friends are looking at me like,
What?
KISS? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you're an idiot. You're a loser. Who listens to KISS? So Halloween night, a junior in high school. So I'm in my parents' basement, watching KISS perform on MTV Unplugged. Coming home, opening up the show, and I'm talking to her, on my parents' landline, because it's 1995, and we're kind of just watching the show together because it's kind of just what you did back in the day a little bit. So she's watching MTV at her parents' house. I'm watching MTV at my parents' house. She doesn't know what the hell, any of this, but it's important to me. So, we're just kind of talking and watching the show. And after every time I look at you, it's when Paul says we have some members of the family here tonight, and I'm not talking about mom and dad, talking about Peter, Chris, and Israeli. And they come out, and I just screamed. I did. I mean, I screamed like I was the 16-year-old girl. But I couldn't believe it was happening. And they sit down, and like Paul goes like, well, what should we play? And I'm like, oh my god, and 2000 Man's cut out on the MTV performance, and they go into Beth, and then they do Beth, Nothing to Lose, and Rock and Roll Night, and it's one of my favorite memories, period. Much less one of my favorite KISS memories, one of my favorite KISS Halloween memories. Seeing my band not only play on MTV Unplugged, which was huge at that time, one of the biggest shows, period, at that time, but then the reunite with Ace Frehley and Peter Criss, and then bring Bruce and Eric out and play, as a 6-man KISS, talking on the phone with her while this is all going on. It's something I'll never ever forget. It's one of my favorite KISS memories, period. Much less Halloween
memories.
Yeah. So that's right here on screen. You'll see them showing a little bit of the Unplugged. They're doing Plaster Caster at this point.
And it's 1995. I mean, this happened a couple months ago, but I had no idea that happened. That's how cool, and that's how different of a time it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously for KISS fans, this was a monumental moment, of course, because there was all kinds of rumors about a possible reunion with these guys, and ever since Peter Criss arrived at one of the conventions and played with them, then it all started, and the buzz was happening. So of course this is a gigantic event. So a fantastic memory, and I love the story. Great story, because I mean, it's for you. It almost seemed like this was for you. Kind of like how the Beatles moment was for the 60s generation. You know what I mean?
It's my Ed Sullivan moment. That's a great analogy, Mark.
Yeah. That's exactly what it made me feel like when I heard you say that. Like, because you can imagine the girls screaming in the audience when he came out and they played. It's like, and for you, it makes perfect sense because you this is your band. Your whole upbringing and for a long part of your life at that point, it was around KISS.
I grew up with 80s KISS. I grew up with Eric Carr and Bruce and Eric Singer. I mean, that was my KISS growing up. And I'm aware of KISS in the 70s, obviously. You know what? I mean, I have a lot of the albums at that point, but to see like them reunite, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm watching this. It's something that
Yeah.
you never thought you'd see.
Yeah, exactly. So Ken, you can do either your earliest or your favorite, whichever one is good. I mean, you might have an
Well,
early one, I don't know, but
yeah, I mean,
talk about it.
there's a couple. Well, favorite. I mean, yeah, the Unplugged is one of my favorites for sure. A big deal for me. But I'll go back to, and it wasn't. It's Halloween. A few days before Halloween. It was when I saw Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. That was my first, because I had missed. We know about Paul Lynde was like 76, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've told that story where I don't understand why I didn't watch Paul Lynde, because I was a Paul Lynde fan. I liked Paul Lynde. I thought he was a hilarious guy. But then I was like, why didn't I watch that? And I went back and searched the Googled it and TV Guide or whatever.
What was I doing that?
And I found out, what the hell was I watching, or what was I doing? And it was another show was on. It was the Bob Hope. No, Bob Hope special.
Ah,
Bob Hope, the comedian, old time comedian stuff. And he had a bunch of guests and stuff on there. And I was like, because I liked Bob Hope, and so I said I must have been watching that, and I missed the, because I would have probably been just gone nuts had I saw, Kiss. Like, what I would have said, what the hell is this, kind of thing. So that's why I missed that. So my next opportunity really was, again, Kiss Me Some Phantom of the Park. Watched it with one of my sisters. She wasn't a fan at the time, but she liked the heck out of the movie. She thought it was great. I enjoyed it. The first time watching it when you're younger, it was cool because I never saw Kiss live. They had some on stage stuff. I never heard them talk, though we know Peter Criss's voice wasn't really there.
All you knew were the pictures, like Inside Alive 2 or Alive.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all you knew.
You just stared and wondered. You stared. Oh man, this concert would be great. I can't wait till I get to go see it. And my next opportunity was going to be in '79, so I had to wait another year. But or half a year actually. But it was that the movie was a big deal, and it was around Halloween time. I know. I think we put the makeup. Me and my friends put the makeup on shortly after that too, for that. So that's a big one for me. One of the biggest ones, at least.
yeah.
I still want to do a Kiss Meets the Phantom watch party.
Yeah, we have to do that.
still
for
got
We
sure.
have to do that.
Yeah.
It's
That's a
so
must.
fun.
It's funny because thinking back to the earliest one for me, ironically, is the same thing as Ken, because I remember being in my apartment building, and my older sister, who's a huge Kiss fan, as I mentioned her numerous times on this show. Excuse me. And so she, of course, knew everything that was happening with Kiss whenever there was something happening. And, of course, the big brouhaha was it was going to be Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park on TV. So I remember us being in the living room watching that, and that was pretty small at that time. I mean, it was pretty young. So I remember that's one of my earliest moments. But one of my favorite moments, and this is when I was already into Kiss, back with my friends. I was in a band with my friend Ted, and he was a huge fan. He had all those posters that came in the albums all plaqued and put on his wall in the house. And this is the first time I ever saw a guy or knew a guy that had his own place with it, like living with his fiance at the time, and he had Kiss stuff hung in the living room in the house.
Sounds like my bachelor pad.
So it was like, yeah. So at first I was like,
It
I couldn't
was.
believe it that his wife was actually tolerant of having all this Kiss stuff, because he had like the Ace smoking guitar over by the fireplace. He had tons of stuff in there. I was like, wow. Like, I know most women would probably be like, there's no way you're putting that up in the living room, or you're not putting this here, and for some reason he was able to get away with it at his house. So, but I was over at his house and this was playing. Let me see if I can get it up here. the KISS Mad TV.
Yeah, Mad TV.
special.
Oh,
Yeah, that was a great
98.
one, too.
That's
Yeah.
great stuff.
So I remember that we were at his house watching this,
That was Halloween night. That was Halloween night.
Exactly.
and I remember we were watching this, and we had a blast watching it because at this point I'll never forget the words that came out of his mouth when we were watching this. He goes, "Mark, KISS is back, man. Look at this. They're showing them on TV again. They're doing TV specials. This is going to be it until they retire. This is going to be the lineup." So he was convinced because of this kind of a television show appearance and stuff like that
Big deal.
that there was going to be no more changes of lineup. They were back. They were happy campers again, blah, blah, blah. But, we didn't know what was happening in the background at that point, right?
Yeah.
So, but that was a really interesting time because the buzz of KISS was still pretty hot. The reunion tour had still happened just not long ago. They had released, the album Psycho Circus was around the corner. Or maybe wasn't
It just
even
come
out
out.
at that?
It just come out.
Yeah, it just come out.
Yeah,
So
I was
Go
going to say that's the same night as the
Dodger
Psycho
Stadium.
Circus tour at the Dodger Stadium.
yeah.
And
there
then
you go.
after Mad TV,
Right.
Fox broadcast the first couple songs
Yep.
from Dodger Stadium.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true because I remember that was also something that happened. I remember after we were watching that, he did flip to that.
Yeah.
Because he had a dish and stuff like that, right?
And the radio broadcast the whole concert.
Right.
Really?
Yeah,
They
Radio Station
simulcast
St. Louis
it or
broadcast
whatever,
the
yeah.
whole concert that night. I mean, I taped it on cassette. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way you had to tape something back in 98. Even in 98 when CDs were still huge, how are you going to tape something off the radio? You taped it off onto cassette.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This was what you did.
Yeah.
But yeah, the radio station broadcast the whole concert.
Remember
Fox
that.
played the first couple songs, and they were on Mad TV. They were on that show Millennium a couple nights prior to that.
Oh yeah, Millennium. That's right.
That was a big deal. Like Mark's friend was saying, this is it. I mean, that was a huge deal. They had a lot of TV exposure that week leading up to that Psycho Circus tour. They had just come off the reunion tour, which was so successful. It was a proud moment. It was a proud week to be a fan that Halloween week of '98.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the thing. Because back in the day, you'd always hear stuff about, KISS having all these TV commercials, these 30-second spots for their albums when they came out and stuff like that. So, but in the 80s, there was none of that. There was no Lick It Up coming out next week. There was nothing like that. It was very hush-hush about that stuff. It was just magazines and stuff like that. So seeing KISS on TV again, it just felt like you were being transported back into the 70s again, almost having this, happening on there. So, another interesting question that was brought up here is, should KISS have done more Halloween events or Halloween-related releases? So let's go over to Ken first on this. Do you think that they should have did more Halloween releases?
Yeah, I mean, they could have done more something themed Halloween. I'm surprised they didn't do it like, they have an album called Monster, right? But they could have done an older album with, Monster and had that kind of a theme throughout, like almost a concept, right, in a way, and released it. And you've seen those like covers like with KISS as zombies. They have it with with Destroyer cover, but they look like zombies. Right. They could have done it. I mean, all they do right now, they've done is just T-shirts, that sort of thing. But they could have done something like that. That's one thing, and I think they could have done a lot more, either specials or maybe another kind of live concerts on Halloween or something to kind of tie in with their makeup and the costumes and that sort of stuff. So I think they could have done more. I wish they would have done more than they did. I mean, it's really not a lot of stuff. We had Tom Snyder show back in '79 and interviews and those kinds of things, and some Scooby Doo, on Halloween kind of Halloween Scooby Doo thing, and stuff like that. But nothing. I'm just surprised they haven't taken it farther.
Yeah, I agree. Lonnie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that they could have cashed in a little bit more on the Halloween theme. You know, I mean, why not? Like Ken said, we've seen all those different versions of the makeup with zombies or skeletons and things like that. Um, but most Kiss albums, if you look at them, most Kiss albums are released in the fall. They're not like a summer album
Lot of
type
them.
band,
Yeah, September a
or
lot.
a new album in the spring type band. A lot of those albums, whether it be Psycho Circus or Carnival or Asylum, or we just had a live 2 recently. A lot of those Kiss seem to cash in on a new album in the fall type band, like Hotter Than Hell.
Yeah.
They
Solo
Hotter Than Hell.
albums.
Yeah, they solo albums. They were a fall release band. They were never like a summer album band. And then coinciding tour would start in the fall. They weren't like they kind of had a different take on it, and it worked for them though. But it would have been cool to kind of capitalize a little bit more on the Halloween aspect. I mean, we talk about what's your favorite Halloween Kiss memory, and like obviously the Psycho Circus night stands out in '98. Kiss Unplugged stands out. Kiss Meets the Phantom stands out. Those were all Halloween event type of things, but I think they could have done even a little bit more to capitalize on their look into Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think Kiss are perfectly, designed to do are things like comic books. Like getting them involved in comics. The whole Scooby-Doo thing that Ken mentioned earlier. I mean, that whole rock and roll adventure thing that they did with Scooby-Doo there. I think that was fantastic. I remember when we actually talked about that release when it came out. It was the thing that was directly responsible for getting my youngest nephew into Kiss, because he got into it because he loved Scooby-Doo as a kid. But when I brought that over for him, gave it to him, he immediately started loving Kiss because of that too. He would have never have gotten into Kiss if it wasn't for that Scooby-Doo release. So I think that kind of thing works perfectly for a band like Kiss. They could get away with that kind of stuff and not lose any kind of credibility, I think, because it works perfectly for them. It's they're always being looked at as sort of like cartoon characters come to life. So and superheroes come to life. So the comic book thing works for them as well. Kiss meets the X-Men, Kiss meet whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that they should have done as well, and the fact that they don't, well, they do kind of do this. I find on Kiss Online they do have Halloween related T-shirts that they put out and stuff like that now in their web store. I think that's a little bit of a improvement on being aware of their marketing ability, but I think that they could do much more on that scale. You know what I mean? I really do think that they could have capitalized a lot more on it. It always makes me wonder if maybe they just, are they thinking that enough is enough? They have enough money. Yeah, that'll be the day.
That's
Yeah,
not what they're
wait
thinking.
a minute.
Come on now.
Yeah, I was
We
gonna
just
say
found out
that.
about KISS Kruise XII.
Yeah, exactly. So that I mean, it always makes you wonder though why they haven't pursued some of these things a little bit more hardcore than they probably could have.
Yeah.
What Halloween event you wish that you saw as it happened?
Well,
Is there one that
Yeah.
that?
well,
Let's go to Ken since you're on that right away.
for me, the one I mentioned was Paul Lind. I mean, again, I mean, I could have saw it, and I remember around that time or the year before. It might have been earlier that year when I had a friend that told this story, showed me the first Kiss album. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
And of course, it's just the faces, 4 faces. I thought, yeah, what are these clowns playing music? For that's seriously, that is what I think I actually said that, and then I thought no more about it after that, until then later on down the road. But yeah, Paul Lind, I think I would have gotten started a little bit earlier. Probably about, I would say about 6 months earlier than I did, because I moved and came out to California, and then I had another friend, a new friend, who actually played Rock and Roll Over for me, and that was it. That was it after that. So it would have been a pretty cool start to start a little bit earlier. But what's 6 months after 50 years or whatever?
Exactly. Now. So Lonnie, what about you? Is there one that sticks out?
I guess it's Kiss Meets the Phantom for me. It was before my time. I mean, I saw it on TV as a kid. They had it on like Channel 11 in St. Louis, like on a Saturday afternoon movie, and I caught like half of it, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And and I might have been like 9 or 10 years old, and at the time I thought it was just the greatest thing ever, and like the most fantastic thing I'd ever seen in my life. And then I bought it on VHS when I was about 17. Local record store had it, and like I couldn't wait to go watch it. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the greatest thing ever. And I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I was so disappointed in like
special effects.
Right. But looking back on it, though, at the same time, I wish, for a young kid, though, to see that in 1978, maybe you're 10 years old in 1978 and you see that for the first time. Like I was 10 years old and they were on Channel 11 and I was a kid. It just blew me away. And I wish I would have seen it like that in 1978, because it would have just blown me away, and I probably would have never saw it again, because there was no VCR even in 1978. I wouldn't have seen it again until, who knows, maybe when it came out on VHS 10 years later.
Yeah.
And then had a totally different opinion of it. But the mystique of it in your mind, though, would have lived for 10 years like that. Would have been pretty cool. Mark, don't even show that.
Devereaux.
So there we have
Devereaux. Instead of Dubai, it's Devereaux.
Yeah.
So here's the ever popular classic movie, Kiss Meets the Phantom.
But like that, and like at 17, I hated it when I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's embarrassing.
But now,
like
comedy. It's comedy kind of now. It's more.
But as an adult though, nostalgic. Now I love it. It's so bad that it's good now.
Yeah, it's one of those types of movies. Yeah,
it's like the original like Nightmare on Elm Street. That movie's terrible, but like you watch that and it's kind of funny. It's so bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because this was definitely one of those reactions I had as well when I first saw it the first time. I remember one of the first things that I thought when I saw it the first time was, where the hell is Kiss? Because when they first came on,
that's right.
It's like 20 minutes of not seeing them at all. And like, what the hell is Kiss actually in this? Because it was, the whole thing with the roller coaster at the beginning, and the girl was trying to find the guy, and and I was like, then finally when they appeared, I was like, yes, they're here.
Finally.
But then it was all like, wow. Like I remember the first time Peter spoke, I was like, wow, that's a different voice. It was so strange hearing his voice like that. No
New York accent. Yeah.
But I'll tell you something. For me, the one thing I wish I would have been around to see, and I'll explain a bit why, was the Paul Lynde. Now, the Paul Lynde thing, the reason why I wish I would have saw it was because of two people. Once again, my sister and her friends. I remember one time when we were up in her friend's apartment, and they were talking about the Paul Lynde thing, and one of the guys there, the jean jacket dude there, was saying, yeah, man, Mark, if you would have saw that, it was so cool, man. Kiss was on TV, man. They were on TV. Can you believe it? Like, because back then, this is a new thing. Like, this is when they kind of started to break big, when this started happening, right? Paul Lynde wasn't exactly a small show, so it was a pretty big thing. And for Kiss fans, to see their favorite band on television was a big thing. And what kind of made me even think that even stronger was I do a live stream on Tuesdays and Sundays. Ken, you're there sometimes too with the Vinyl Archivist live stream. And Vance, the guy who's there with us most of the time, he just told me the other night, because we were talking about the Paul Lynde special in Halloween. And he said to me, and this really hit me, is he said, Mark, Paul Lynde is my Ed Sullivan. For him, that was his Ed Sullivan, because when he saw that when he was younger, he's a bit older than me, right? He said that he was, in his teens and he was like, his jaw hit the floor, like when they came out and did King of the Nighttime World, and he saw Gene do the fire thing, and he saw them do, the exploding amps and stuff like that. He was
Yeah.
like, wow, what the hell is this? And then, they did Beth, and even they did those little small segments, when Paul Lynde meets them, and, they do those little
Yeah.
one-liners and stuff.
4 kisses on the first date.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I can understand totally what he meant with that, because to him, that was such an imperative moment. He said that that's where his love of Kiss started. He had not been a Kiss fan really until he saw that.
Yeah.
And then it totally blew the doors open for him. So I wish that I would have been at such a moment like that. Like, because for me, I had the Mad TV, and that to me was important, but it didn't hit me as hard as how some of these things hit these people, because I had already known Kiss at that time, and I'd already, gotten into them quite a bit. So when it happened, the Mad TV thing, it was cool. But if I would have saw something like that and I'd never heard of them before, then maybe I would have been like, holy shit, what the hell is this? Kind of like how those guys reacted when they saw the Paul Lynde special, or when you guys saw Phantom of the Park the first time. It's, or even if you see like the Tom Schneider interviews or whatever, there's certain things that people have entry points on. So I really think that I would have loved to have seen that, because I finally got that on DVD, maybe 10 years ago was the first time I actually saw it, if you can believe it, right? So it wasn't even that long ago. So, it's one of those things that I've always been sorry about, that I never got in at Kiss at the kind of ground floor like that. So that's an important thing I would have loved to have seen. Okay, so what else do we have here? Which is your yeah, so I guess the only other thing that sorry?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the only other thing that's left here to kind of ask about is what makes these things so memorable for you, as far as what makes this stick in your mind so strongly. Let's start with Ken this time. What makes these things so memorable for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that, you become a follower or a fan of Kiss for so long, and you go back and remember these things that really stick out to you as big moments in your fandom, right, of Kiss. And so, for instance, right, that one, like I said, Phantom of the Park was a big deal. I can always think about that. I always think about Tom Schneider. That was aired on Halloween, that interview, and I had the Kiss makeup on that night.
That's a great one. We didn't even mention which Tom.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hilarious. I mean, that's just a hilarious interview because of Ace. But all these different things that happened on Halloween. We talked Mad TV, Unplugged, and so on. They're all easily, they're just etched in your memory, and they're really actually all really big moments in Kiss's history. So it's part of it's becoming a fan, and you're so passionate about it that these big moments throughout the whole career, these moments stand out for me, and a lot of Halloween memories are in there.
Lonnie, what about you?
Yeah, they really do stand out. Like we mentioned, like Mark, you said the MTV Unplugged was kind of like my Ed Sullivan moment. 95 and
you screamed like the girls, and
I did. I screamed like the girl. 95 and 98 like really stand out to me as like it's almost like a rite of passage type thing almost for Kiss. And 95 was Kiss like basically starting their uphill climb on their way back, and 98, by the time they got there, they were at the top of the mountain again. They were so successful on the reunion tour, and the super hyped album had just come out that at the time we all believed that it was Gene, Paul, Ace, and Peter. They were back. And Mark, you were showing the highlights on your phone, and like your friend saying, "This is it. This is the KISS lineup forever at this point." And I think a lot of KISS fans truly, really believe that in their hearts. Like they're never breaking up again. This is so great. Look at them. They're getting along so well, and they're making an album again. And now we're going to tour, and we're just going to keep on making albums and tour. And that's just the way KISS is going to be until they ride off into the sunset. But those two nights really just stand out in my KISS memories. And just being proud of them, being proud of being a fan. KISS fans are often ridiculed or poked fun at, and like, oh, KISS, that's nothing. You should listen to Black Sabbath, or you should listen to Led Zeppelin, and things like that. But there's a Black Sabbath movie on Halloween. There isn't.
Yeah.
Black Sabbath, didn't take over Mad TV and have an MTV Unplugged.
Yeah.
It was things like that like kind of validated your fandom, and kind of stand out in your memory. So. It's fun to look back and smile about things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are great points. I mean, it's the same thing for me. I mean, like I said, the Mad TV thing was pretty important. I mean, it was, again, one of those moments where it really solidified KISS's return into the big time, as they would say. And a lot of the KISS fans, like my friend, were convinced that the good times were just going to keep rolling and rolling from that point on, right? And I mean, I was a KISS fan even before that, like I said, before that happened. And it was funny because when I was a bit younger, I think about maybe 15, or no, it was about 12 actually, was one of the last times I went out trick-or-treating, and me and a couple of my friends we got all done up in KISS makeup. My older sister Jane, she made us all up in KISS makeup, and it looked really good. I wish I could find those pictures of it, because she did such an incredible job. She got us wigs and everything. It was incredible how realistic it looked, how back then. And back then, I remember when we were going around with my sister, she was chaperoning us. There were even little snorty comments around from other kids. KISS, even then it was not that cool to be a KISS fan. But back in '98, when Mad TV came out, everybody and their brother were talking about that the next day. That they were on TV. Oh, did you see the performance after? That was so cool at Dodger Stadium. Blah blah blah. So that moment was pretty important, because it made you realize that back then, when you were younger, and you were getting those little, jabs at you for being a KISS fan, that now who's laughing now, at that point for it. That's one thing I'll always be kind of grateful for KISS for kind of doing that, because it made you realize that you weren't, doing that for nothing. I mean, sure, I love the music. I wouldn't have cared really about it. I would still listen to it. I wouldn't have gone home and said, I'm never wearing KISS makeup again, and I'm not listening to the music. No, I mean, I still loved it regardless.
It made you love it more. It made you love it more.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, in a way, Halloween, the association with Halloween and KISS is pretty important. And if you are a KISS fan, I think that Halloween became an even more important event for you than if you weren't a KISS fan. I truly believe that. So let's leave it at that. We got a pretty healthy episode here that I'm sure Julian will have fun going through. So don't forget to leave your thoughts on what we talked about earlier. We talked about many things. The release of a Live 2 coming out on vinyl. What did you get? What do you think? Should people be restricted to 2 copies instead of 4? What about the KISS 2024 cruise? What are your thoughts on that? What did you think about the Sail Away set list? And what did you think about Halloween and KISS? What did you think? What are some of your favorite memories of Halloween and KISS? And we love reading your comments. As you can see now, it's become a regular part of our podcasting here now. So please do leave your comments, and we'll be more than happy to read a few of them next week again when we do our next episode. So until then, on behalf of myself, Marcus Almighty, and Ken and Lonnie, we will all see you again next week. Thank you for watching, and have a happy Halloween, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.